Looking back at some of the incredible dogs that I had the opportunity to either work with or in some cases keep, um, one of the ones that stands out the most is an incredible Australian Shepherd named Jake. And for those of you in my life that have met Jake and remember Jake, Jake was an Australian Shepherd. He is the reason I have two Australian Shepherds to this day. He was the most incredible dog. He showed me what it was like to have an intense working breed and the difference, the contrast for me. Because if you know me, you know that we have a lot of noofs, right? So when Jake came into our life, having a dog that literally was at my beck and call, just eagerly awaiting for some sort of command, like, what do you want me to do? You want me to grab this thing? Do you want me to dig up this rock? Do you want me to get that cone over there? What do you want me to do? You want me to make you a sandwich? Like, he was the most intense worker I have ever owned. And as I say, as a result, is the reason why we have Rue and Irie today. I love the breed so much. But if you didn't know how the story of Jake and how he came to be ours, first of all, let me just tell you, this was one dog where it wasn't me that ended up saying we should just keep this dog. It was Mark. It wasn't me. So let me back up a little bit. I had been following Jake's story on Facebook for a while. The owners were trying to find him a new home at the ripe old age of 12. And Jake was an intact Australian Shepherd. And essentially, and this is not meant to throw shade at all on the original owners because I owe them everything. I mean, I owe them everything. Their ability to, rehome him and offer him to me, as I say, has shaped my pack and my love for the Australian Shepherd. So this is in no way throwing any shade. I want to put that out there. But Jake's story started off with they were trying to rehome him at the age of 12. And as the story was, Jake was this great dog. They had done so much work with him, training him and whatnot. And he was incredibly smart. But when they had their first child, when he was 5, they had a child. They discovered that Jake was becoming nippy with their son. And as the son got older, things progressed and got worse. Now, I know many of you are going to say, well, of course he was nippy. He's an Australian Shepherd. He's a herding breed, all of that good stuff. They just didn't know that. Which is why I say this is no way to throw shade. But essentially what happened was because they were getting increasingly worried about Jake's behavior around their son, they were secluding him more and more till eventually he ended up basically living his life in like the downstairs bathroom or something, and they would let him out in the yard to play, but then he would put him back in the bathroom, and he didn't really get the interaction with the family because they were concerned that he might accidentally or on purpose bite or nip at their son. So they basically did that for 7 years, right? He was, as I mentioned, he was 12 when we got him. And I don't know what the incident was that happened where the husband decided that now was the time the dog had to go. But this wife was desperately looking for someone to take the dog. There were a lot of kind-hearted people that were interested in Jake, but I would follow his story and it would be, someone tried him out, but he was marking in the house. Someone else tried him out, but it wasn't working out. Anyway, I'd seen all of these people trying to find Jake a home and then not succeeding. So when another person put their hand up and said, "Hey, I would like to try and see if Jake might be a good fit in my home," at the time I was like, I'm going to offer my services for free to come and help them do the introduction and sort of set this up for success, which everybody agreed upon. So we met at a park so that this new owner with her dog could meet Jake. And through the course of events of the meeting, through no fault of really anybody's. I was literally like, this isn't going to work. There were a couple reasons why it wasn't going to work. Jake was an intact male that was 12, but the dog that he was being introduced to was also an intact Sheltie. And that intact Sheltie was pretty ballsy, if I to put it bluntly. It was pretty ballsy. And so I knew that this was going to be a tougher introduction, a tougher hill to climb, just because the two boys were probably going to have some conflict, and add into that the human emotional part, which I won't get too much into today because that's not the point of this conversation. But long story short, at the end of it, I was like, I just don't think this is going to work out. We were sitting around talking, and all of a sudden my husband turned to me and he said, we can't honestly send this dog back to live in the basement, like in the bathroom in the basement. Like, we should just take him. That was Mark, not me. But I, of course, I quickly agreed. I'm like, you know what? We'll take him. The owners were thrilled because they were like, what better place for a dog to go than a place that runs a daycare and has all these dogs, and it's going to be a great life for Jake. So everybody was happy. Next thing you know, we're driving back and Jake is sitting on my lap, and I'm like, I don't know how this keeps happening, but that's how I ended up with 19 dogs. I digress. The reason why I wanted to bring up Jake today was because one of the things that happened very, very early on when we brought Jake home was we knew that, the importance of creating dogs that we don't know, right? That is very important to me. When I introduce a new dog, when I bring a new dog into my pack, I never, ever leave them unattended with the pack when we first start. And I do rely on crates and kennels to help with that. And the very first day that we had to leave Jake with in the house when we were not going to be there, I put him in the crate. We went to leave, and I'm not going to lie, he started howling and crying in that crate, and it was gut-wrenching. And I mean soul-crushing, gut-wrenching crying. And Mark turned to me and he's like, oh my gosh, we cannot leave him. We have let him out of the crate. And we automatically start, humanizing the situation, because in your head, you're like, he spent so much time in the bathroom by himself and he doesn't want to be left alone. And it's so awful. And how can we do this? And how can we do this? And I turned to Mark and I said, no, we have to be strong here. This is a skill that he is going to have to learn. He's going to have to learn and get the pattern that we will come back, because he's an intact 12-year-old male. And we have intact breeder males here on this property. So this isn't something that I'm going to leave to chance or fate. I can't be there to watch them. I can't be there to make sure he is safe. And as a result, he has to learn how to be in the crate. And it was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do, was walking out that door, listening to him cry like that, and walking away. Now, full disclosure, we were out in the country. His crying and sobbing after we left wouldn't have bothered anybody. No one else would have heard it, but it was the most difficult thing I ever did. However, it became the most essential skill we could have taught Jake. So today on the podcast, we are going to be talking about 8 reasons why you should crate train your dog. Teach them this valuable skill. I'm going to break it down, 8 reasons why you should do this. We're going to talk about that right now. Let's get into it. Are you worried that your fearful dog may hurt someone or something else? Do you have to prepare just to take a walk around the block? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I too had that dog. The one that you could only walk at nighttime when no one else was around. And I felt ashamed, and oh gosh, I wish that people could just see the dog that I know and love. I wanted the confidence to be able to walk my dog and not have to worry about who or what was around the corner. And I kept telling myself that if I just keep doing obedience drills and distracting with treats, that things would get better. Until I found the secret. Fear is not something that you can train out of a dog. In this podcast, you will find tips to help build your dog's confidence naturally, communication and understanding to foster that trust, and how to address those fear-based behaviors effectively so that you can enjoy a stress-free life with your dog. So if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners, grab your notebook, and let's get to it. Hello, 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 and welcome to Beyond Obedience. I am your host, Tracy. I am so glad you're here, my fellow dog lover. Listen, I'm going to come out full disclosure right here and now and let you know that I have been diagnosed with Lyme disease. Why is that important to you, my fellow dog-loving friend? Because if you don't know, Lyme disease does come with a very lovely amount of symptoms, including headaches, fatigue, and most importantly for us here today, brain fog. So if you're listening to this and you're like, she's off track, she's gone completely off track, that's why I'm gonna use the Lyme disease card. I'm gonna be like, Lyme disease, I can't help myself. So, but all that being said, I am on the mend. I've started my treatment for Lyme disease. I'm hoping to be feeling better soon, but I didn't want to miss this. I did not want to miss this. So, hey, if you haven't had a chance already to join me over in the Facebook group, listen, I'm gonna be straight up honest with you on that too. Hasn't been that active because, Lyme disease. Oh my gosh, I can use this everywhere. Lyme disease. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't join. Join the Facebook group. Come over to the Facebook group. Please put pictures in there. Say hello. Introduce yourself. Let's get it started. Kick it off. Be the person that starts off letting me know how you're doing, what's going on. Show pictures of your dog. That's a great way to do that. Go over to Beyond Obedience, see Lyme disease. Go to Facebook, and I want you to search for the group Living Beyond Obedience. That's where you'll find us. Request to join. I'd love to see you there. Also, you guys know, if you haven't heard already, the best way to get in touch with me is through the pen pal. Let's be pen pals. So the way that you get on that list to be the first to know about, talks that I might be doing or things that are coming up is to join the Canine Chronicles. How do you do that? Good question. You go to beyondobedience.ca and you're going to wait on the page for a second. A pop-up menu is going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, do you want to be a pen pal? Do you want to join the Canine Chronicles? You just give me your name and your email and that's it. We're connected forever. Forever. You can get in touch with me. You can ask me questions. It'll be great. Who doesn't want to be pen pals? All right, let's get into it today. Let's jump right into this. So today I really wanted to talk about crate training and the importance of crate training. And I'm going to just go through the 8 reasons why I think that every puppy/dog should be crate trained and explain a little bit why. So first and foremost, the number one reason usually people get crates or told to get crates is crate training does help create a routine for potty training, right? When we're potty training our puppies, when we first get them, you need to have a crate. Setting up a crate, a safe place for them to sleep that is, big enough for them to get up and spin around, but not big enough for them to pee in the corner and also sleep, allows you to be able to create the routine, create the patterns of predictability for your puppy, and allows for an easier transition for potty training, right? I will tell you right now, because this is a question got asked to write an article on potty training for puppies for our local newspaper. And if I could tell you the number one reason why why potty training fails, I would say the number one reason is because people don't understand that when we say you have to watch the puppy, that means you have to watch the puppy. And if you're not able to, no multitasking, you can't multitask and watch a puppy, because the moment you're not paying attention and they figure out that they can go around the chair and have a little, pee over there, you're sunk. You're sunk. They've learned it, right? Especially if you don't know where they've gone. The amount of stories I've heard of people that are like, oh my gosh, I looked underneath my son's bed and it was just a public toilet under there. When that happens, the dogs learn that. And guess what? If it's easier to do that, they're going to do it. They're going to create their own patterns. So crates are great for that. If you can't watch your puppy, you put them in their crate for rest. That's probably the number one reason I think people get crates, especially when they start getting puppies. Number two reason, The crates are a safe place for puppies and dogs. Okay, not just puppies, but also dogs, right? If you have to leave your dog alone at home for long periods of time, even short periods of time, to be honest with you, but that's plenty of time for puppies to get into mischief. And, we've heard horrible stories of puppies that chew electrical cords or, chew something, get into something poisonous, or, you come home and you don't know what your puppy's gotten into, but they're not feeling well. And how is the vet going to figure out what happened if you don't know? And even benign things, you guys. I have heard as a vet tech stories of, dogs or puppies that have suffocated because they got their head stuck in a chip bag. And while that may sound, like impossible, like how does that happen? It happens. It happens. So making sure that your puppy has a safe place when you're not there is really, really important. They can get into so much trouble. So much trouble. And puppies in particular, especially at certain times, have a love to chew things, right? So why allow them, to chew on some of your favorite things and you get frustrated? All that. So many good reasons to put your puppy and dogs in your crate, keeping them safe at all times. And I will say as a caveat, when I use a crate, none of my dogs wear collars when they're in a crate, okay? Because that actually can be a hazard. Right, we've heard of horror stories of collars getting stuck inside crates. So naked dogs in crates, safe space. Not to mention too, right, you can give them safe dog appropriate things to chew on if they need to chew, if they need it for self-soothing activities, that kind of thing. Great for that. Okay. Number 3, crates help prevent dogs from being overstimulated by all the things going on outside your house. Okay. So dogs that are allowed to sort of roam the house and whatnot, and in their boredom, they will start to bark at squirrels or people walking down the street, but that can actually start to lead to problematic chronic barking as well as destructive behavior in your home, right? Some of it starts off just simply as boredom, like there's stuff going on out there and I'm going to start barking at it. And then that becomes excitement. And then that excitement becomes destructive and chronic problem barking. So the stimulation or overstimulation by all's the going on, especially if you live in a suburb or whatnot, you have a lot of traffic or foot traffic or bikers or whatever. Having your dog be able to run around and jump up at the windows and bark and growl and snarl, all that sets them up to have problematic behavior. All right, number 4, crate training helps to teach your dog how to be okay with being away from you, even when you are there. Hold on, I have to have a sip of my tea. And I put that there, even when you are there. When you crate train, it's important to actually put your puppy or your dog in the crate when you're home. This actually is an essential skill to teach dogs. Dogs are innately driven to be with their family at all times, right? It's not innate for dogs to be by themselves. They are socially driven creatures. So unfortunately, in Humansville, there are going to be moments when you have to leave them. And this skill came up quite a bit during COVID when everyone was forced to be home and lots of people went out and got dogs and puppies and they were home all the time. If you didn't take the time to actually teach the dog crate training or how to be away from you, when we all went back to work, it became a problem for a lot of dogs who now are like, I can't cope with this. Where's my human? I don't know what I'm doing. So having a crate in your house during the day and saying to your dog during this time, even though I'm still going to be in the house, I'm still going to be milling around, you're going to be in your crate resting and I'm going to be here. You're not going to be able to follow me everywhere I go, because those kind of things are what ends up developing into separation anxiety. And I know that as someone who has very high social drive dogs. So dogs like my Noofs are considered high social drive dogs. Golden retrievers are another one, high social drive dogs. When we allow a highly social driven dog to follow us around every single where we go, everywhere we go, and we don't create this idea that you can be over there while I'm over here, when we do have to leave, our dogs will struggle. So it really is a great skill to teach them to prevent issues like separation anxiety later on. Okay. Number 5, crate training is an essential skill that your dog should have in cases of emergencies. Now, I can say from experience as someone who has run a boarding facility before and has had the panic stricken calls of people that were like, we've had an emergency, somebody's had a heart attack, whatever that emergency is, we need to put the dog in boarding. Dogs that are already crate trained have a much easier time and a transition in an emergency situation. So yeah, I know for me personally, in my boarding facility, our suites were very big because they were horse stalls. They were 10 by 10. And we would encourage people to bring their dogs crates. And during those times, especially during emergencies, imagine the emotional turmoil that's happening during an emergency, right? You're panicked and freaked out. Your dog is going to feed off of that. But if they have been crate trained and they have a space that smells like them, has their bedding, they know that they're safe there, that transition to the boarding kennel is much easier for them. They have at least their safe space. They know that they're going to be okay. Not to mention, God forbid, the emergency is actually with your dog and your dog has to go to the vets overnight. They're going to be in a crate. So if your dog already has this idea of being in a crate isn't a bad thing, they're going to have, an easier time adjusting and healing at the vet clinic. So many good reasons to have that, especially for cases of emergency. Number 6, and this is for shout out to my fearful dog owners. Okay. If you have a shy or fearful dog, crates create what I call the safety zone for shy and insecure dogs. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the upcoming episodes when we talk more about fearful dogs. But a crate creates a safety zone for shy and insecure dogs. Having a shy dog that is crate trained allows the dog to be able to escape stressful situations, like when guests come over, or if, say, if you have kids, if the kids get too rambunctious and the dog gets overwhelmed, it gives them a place to escape to when those situations happen. And what that does, especially for our fearful dogs, and this is very important, and as I say, I will dive much more deeply into this topic when we start talking more about fearful dogs and the power of creating a safe zone. But what that does is that allows the dog to have an option for safety where they don't have to rely on growling, snapping, or biting or lunging at people, because that's what fearful dogs end up doing when they feel like they don't have a place to go. So teaching your dog and teaching your guests and your kids that if the dog retreats to their crate, that is the dog's way of saying, I'm overwhelmed. I don't want anyone to touch me, look at me, talk to me, all of that stuff. It is a great, incredible tool for fearful dogs. Okay. Number 7, crate trained dogs are just easier to transport in vehicles and or airplanes, that sort of thing. If something comes up and you all of a sudden have to move or whatnot, or you have to take a plane, or you have to, go for a long car ride, whatever, having a crate trained dog makes it so much easier, because they know that they're going to be okay in their safe space. And going through stuff like airports and airplanes and all of that kind of stuff, if they're in their own crate, they're going to feel better. They're going to feel safe. You never want to have a situation where your dog has never stepped foot in a crate and now all of a sudden you have to put them on an airplane, right? That is, a hard transition for the dogs. And then finally, this is number 8. And I wanted to end with this one because it's probably the number one question I get asked when it comes to crate training is, when is it okay for me to just stop crate training, especially for puppies? Or like, when is it like safe for me to like not put the puppy, like When can I just stop with the crate training? Everybody has this goal that crate training is just for potty training and whatnot. And now that the puppy's potty trained, now we can move on and the dog can have the freedom in the house. And here's what I want to ask anybody that has that question. My first question back to them is, what do you think your dog will be doing during the day while you're at work? What are you anticipating that they're going to be doing? Like, are they, sitting around watching TV or YouTube videos, snacking? Like, are they doing, downward facing dog yoga routines? Like, what is it that you think that they're doing? And I say this I'm trying to be a little bit funny, but also I really want you to think about that, because when I ask that question, most people come back and go, well, I expect them to be relaxing peacefully in the house, but I want them to have the freedom to roam the house. And to that, I would say, if your expectation is you want the dog to just be peacefully relaxing in your house, why not leave them in the crate? Why not give them that safe space? Because when we open up that crate to the dog and we say, now all of this is yours, we think we're giving them freedom. In essence, we're giving them more responsibility. We're saying to them, and now you're in charge of all of this space. And depending on your dog, right, that freedom, that space, that new responsibility, some dogs are going to take that seriously, right? Your dogs that are more innately inclined to be protective, they're going to take that job pretty seriously. They're going to be like, the UPS dude came and I made sure I told that guy off, or the mail comes every day and I have to tell that guy off. Like, they will take that responsibility very, very seriously. And I know some people are going to come back and say, but that's what I want. I want people to know that I have a dog. I want them for protection, that sort of thing. Honestly, if you're really seriously looking for a dog that you want for quote unquote protection, then you should be doing the work to train the dog in protection. Okay? Dogs are innately going to bark, whether they're in a crate or not in a crate, which would still allow people to know that you have a dog on the property, and it, may be a deterrent for people that have ill intent towards your home. But the reality of it is giving a dog that much responsibility, you better be sure one, that dog can handle that responsibility and you've trained them to do so. If they don't, it can be, and quite often is, too much responsibility for them. You're asking them to take care of the house for you. And for a lot of dogs, that's overwhelming. That's when you get the dogs that are panicking and they're pacing and they're like, I'm not sure what to do. There's so much going on that it becomes a stressor and an anxiety. Why not, in my opinion, why not just say to the dog, you don't have any responsibility. I'm going away. Your responsibility is to rest, relax, enjoy your chew. I'll be back in an hour, right? It's a nicer thing to do for your dog. You know what I'm saying? Now, that being said, if you were to ask me, are my dogs in crates? Some, right? Nike is in a crate when we leave the house. She's my 1.5-year-old Jack Russell Terrier. She's in a crate. Rue also enjoys her crate because she's an innately fearful dog. But for Rue, her crate is left open. So the door is open. But guess what she chooses 9 times out of 10? She chooses that crate. Given the option, she'll choose the crate. When guests come over, she'll choose the crate, which is why we still have them. We have crates all over our house. They may not be locked in them. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And honestly, our noofs aren't. But they're noofs. They're like mobile carpets. They do sleep most of the day. And our house isn't a house that has a lot of activity, right? We're out in the country. We don't have traffic here. We don't have, we don't have people coming and knocking on our door, or the mail doesn't get delivered to our house. Like, we don't have the same experience as maybe someone in urban, in an urban center. So there you go. There you go, my friend. That's 8 reasons why you should crate train your dog. And I will point out, to end all of this, I want to point out that the word is crate training. Okay, so for all my people, all my puppy lovers out there that write to me and say, my puppy hates the crate, so I'm not doing it anymore. They don't like the crate, right? It's not called crate loving it. It's called crate training for a reason. It is a skill. It is something that we need to teach them, because we're asking them to exist in Humansville, to be involved in it with a species that has rules like leashes, and confinement is going to be part of that. So this is a skill that they have to learn. Okay? Does that help? I hope that helps. Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this episode or any of the episodes, can you do me a favor and please share this with your other dog loving friends? As well as, if you're on Apple, give me a 5-star written review. It really does help push the show out to more and more dog lovers like you and me. And that's the goal. That's the goal. And if you have questions, be sure to hit me up either in email, because we're pen pals now, because you did that, or in the Facebook group. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you thought about this episode. And as always, get out there today and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you are amazing, and so do I. Have a great week, everybody. I'll talk to you all next week. Bye for now.